Okay, parents. Parents are the fundament, the cornerstone of our society, because they raise the next generation. By defining the rules in a household and by being the core examples for their children. So I'm a researcher on parenting practices, and I'm a parent too. So I know all about the worries, the questions and the feelings of guilt that parents may have. Did I handle this tantrum okay? Should I set more rules? Should I be more involved, or is it better to just let go a bit? We have these questions and worries about many domains of child development. We have them about school achievements, about interactions with peers, sports, manners, about how much children watch television, what video games they play, about sleep, and of course about eating. So what do we as parents do when we worry or we have questions? We ask for advice from our own parents or our friends. Or we look in handbooks or at the internet. And luckily, there are hundreds of handbooks and websites on parenting practices available. But today I will tell you that some of the advice that is given in these handbooks may actually be wrong. So I'm a psychologist and I study eating behaviors of children. So I'm interested in how we can help children to develop healthy eating habits. And I'm interested in how we can help parents to achieve this. So there are two very common problems with children sitting at the kitchen table. They eat too much or they eat too little. And both drive parents nuts. So to start with the first, eating too much. We all know that obesity is a worldwide problem. It's an epidemic. And this epidemic often starts already in childhood. And this makes parents the gateway to solving, or at least reducing, the obesity rates. And with my research, I want to offer parents the tools to solve this problem in the best way possible. So what do we as adults do when we want to lose weight or prevent weight gain? Exactly, we cut foods out of our diet. No more sugars, no more snacks, no more fast food, no more soft drinks. And that is what parents will do to their children too. But just Google it. And many websites will tell you that strict control and the banning of foods is dangerous. So buying no cookies anymore and putting chocolate on the top shelf will backfire. Parents are warned. Because the banning of this food will lead to a desire, which will result in overeating when these foods are freely available, and that eventually leads to weight gain and overweight. So wait a minute, parents are warned that the banning of foods will result in obesity, which is actually the one thing that they're trying to prevent. This doesn't make sense. It contradicts logic, it contradicts intuition, and unintentionally it leads to feelings of guilt among parents. So these guidelines are based on some experimental studies. And these are really great studies, very well designed experiments. But that is also the problem with these studies, because findings have not been replicated outside the lab, in real life. And work from my own research group has actually led to different conclusions. So using a different design, an observational design, in which we follow families over time, we found that parents aren't actually causing the overeating. No, they're doing their best to prevent it, to control it, because they worry about their child's weight. So parents, relax and don't worry. There does not seem so much harm in putting the chocolate on the top shelf. Okay, now let's move on to that other problem at the kitchen table. Children who are difficult, picky eaters. You know, those children who don't want to eat their broccoli or beans or fish, or who all of a sudden claim, "I hate milk!" Yes, you probably know one or two of those children, or you were one like this yourself. And that's not so strange that you know this behavior, because it's really common. About 50% goes through a phase of picky eating at some point. And in most children, the vegetable hatred disappears over time, although in some it may last a bit longer. In most children, this difficult behavior is not really a health problem per se, but it does drive parents nuts. Because parents don't want their child to be hungry or undernourished, so they try to persuade their child to eat a little bit more. Come on, one more bite, please. Or, okay, so this is your plate. Well, then at least finish this part of it. Again, this is very logical parenting behavior. But the handbooks advise against it. Pressuring a child too much will have negative consequences. That's what the handbooks say. Because children will start to hate the forced foods and eventually eat less. Again, this idea is based on experimental studies conducted in the lab. But observational work from others and also from my own group has led to different conclusions. That pushing a child to eat something is not really causing picky eating. It's much more the other way around. It's parents who try to help their child and solve the problem. So my advice is, parents, don't worry if you try to persuade your child to eat the broccoli when he or she is being a picky eater. And parents, don't worry or don't feel guilty when you try to limit the food intake of your child when he or she is becoming a bit heavy. It seems that this intuitive parenting behavior is actually not so bad after all. It is much more people like me who need to do more, because we cannot just base guidelines on one type of study. So we need to do more, and we need to look at the problem from different angles. So we should do more research. And yes, we should do experimental studies, but also observational studies in real life and interviews. And we should do intervention studies to test if what we put in these handbooks is really helping. Thank you.